Jay here, Stretford, Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. As you can see, we're in the studio, we're live. You know what to do. You've got to get involved in the comments and the chat. We're going to be addressing some transfer rumours. There could be a bit of an update, or there is a bit of an update on Ivan Toney, who seems to be flavour of the month with a lot of people, myself included. Also, where would we be without a Frankie de Jong and a Jude Bellingham update? So we've got a story about both of those as well. And the big one, Jim Ratcliffe. It looks like Sir Jim Ratcliffe is going to address the Manchester United rumours tonight. He's planning to do a bit of a Q&A, a bit of a live interview with the Financial Times. And on the agenda is the Manchester United question. So we'll get into all that. Make sure you lot are getting involved in the chat and the comments and hitting that like button. Hit like, please. Loads of people. Stuart Thomas says, you're late. Apologies there. Technical difficulties. The technical difficulty being I wasn't ready. So, yep, apologies for that. Squeaky Weasel says, Jay. Stephen Keane says, morning. Jordan Desmond, morning, Jay. Man United. Shavon says, that's a bit harsh. Jay, my mother wants her sweater back. Does this look like your mum's sweater? If it is, your mum's got good taste. Glenn F says, hey, Joe, my main man. Hey, Joe, I'm Jay. Joe's producing. Joe's waving. He says hello. Yeah, I'm Jay. He's Joe. If you've not done so, actually, on the Joe front, go and check out, after this video, of course, Joe's look at Casemiro's masterclass against Everton at Goodison Park. A really good video there where we go into the sort of a bit of a deep dive and to see just why Casemiro had such a good game at Goodison Park. So make sure you go and check that out. But first of all, stay with me because we want to get into the Jim Ratcliffe story. Now, for anyone who is, completely oblivious to what's going on with Jim Ratcliffe, I'll give you a little bit of a recap and then we'll get into what the story is. Jim Ratcliffe, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, who's, like Marcus Rashford, I think he's Manc born and bred, has been linked with a Manchester United takeover for a little while. I think he's Britain's richest man. He's worth about 20 billion. Can you imagine? Wouldn't be able to buy Altrincham for that, let alone Manchester United. He's worth about 20 billion quid. He's Britain's richest man. He's a boyhood Manchester United fan. He was linked with the Chelsea takeover a few months ago, well, a little bit longer, during the summer. He threw his hat into the ring for the Chelsea bid when it became obvious that Roman Abramovich was going to have to sell Chelsea. I think he put a bid in of around 4 billion or something, I want to say. Wasn't successful, but some people looked at that as a little bit of almost like him announcing to everyone, look, I'm interested in buying a football club. And he was asked at the time, Dan Rohn from the BBC, did a really good interview with him where he asked him about Manchester United because he said, you're a United fan, you're a boyhood United fan, why Chelsea? And he said, I was a boyhood United fan. I did go to United when I was a kid. I live in London now. I go to Chelsea. And then he was asked about, buying United, and he said Manchester United are not for sale. That was kind of what he said. You know what I mean? It wasn't like, I'm not interested in United. I don't want to buy United. His line was, Manchester United are not for sale. Now, he wasn't successful, obviously, with Chelsea. Todd Burley bought Chelsea. And a lot of people looked at it and go, was he ever going to be successful? It felt it was a bit of an 11th hour bid. I don't think it was, well, obviously wasn't the most money that was offered. And it felt like it was more of a signal. Look, I'm interested in buying a football club. Now, we spoke to Kieran Maguire. We've spoken to Kieran Maguire a few times about this. Kieran Maguire, if you don't know, he's from the Price of Football podcast and wrote the book as well. He's a football financial expert. He's a great guy, massive football fan. He's not a United fan, but he's a big football fan. And he's very good at explaining, breaking down the financial implications of certain deals and what's going on. And he spoke about Jim Ratcliffe and he said, he gets the impression that Jim Ratcliffe, I think he's just turned 70 this year, or he might be just about he's around 70 years old, Sir Jim Ratcliffe. He said it feels like now he's ready to sort of almost build his legacy when it comes to football, almost like get involved in something like maybe Manchester United, because it's, that could be what he's remembered for. Yes, he's one of the most successful British businessmen of all time, and he's done a lot of things with British cycling and stuff like that. But buying Manchester United, perhaps, and, sort of getting us out of the mess that those Glazer parasites have put us in would be an amazing legacy for him to leave for everyone. So he thought that maybe there's something happening there. I've got there's a quote here from the Financial Times, and it says, when asked on Wednesday about the prospects of acquiring or investing in United, an Ineos spokesman said, yes, we're interested if the club is for sale. Now, Ineos is Sir Jim Ratcliffe's company. This was about 6 weeks ago. You remember this story broke that Sir Jim Ratcliffe would be interested in Manchester United. One of his spokespeople said this about 6 weeks ago, 2 months ago, whatever it was. So that got everyone excited again, like, oh, there could be something here. Now, tonight, he's going to do this this sort of in-depth interview with the Financial Times. I think, is it Jonathan Guthrie from the Financial Times? Now, as part of that, there's a sort of a schedule here that's been published. And it says, in conversation with the Financial Times' Jonathan Guthrie, Sir Jim Ratcliffe will explore his passion for business, Ineos, a few other questions, and energy price hikes, all boring stuff you're probably not that bothered about. And then it says here, Manchester United, Chelsea, what are the next acquisition targets? So it's on the agenda there. He's going to get asked. He's going to get asked about Manchester United. He's going to get asked about Chelsea. But we know what happened with Chelsea. He didn't buy Chelsea. And he's not going to buy it anytime soon because Todd Boehly's just bought it. And Todd Boehly, by the way, seems to be playing like some sort of, video game with Chelsea Football Club. Doesn't he? It's like he's, playing Championship Manager or something, buying loads of players, coming up with all sorts of ideas about, North versus South and All-Star games and God knows what else. Anyway, that's not happening in Chelsea, and I don't think anyone's bothered about that, are we? But Manchester United, it's the question that's there. We saw that, a couple of months ago, one of his spokespeople said he's interested, but he's not for sale. However, could it be for sale? Now, we know there's been pressure put on the Glazers. We know there's been protests. We know the groups like the 1958 have obviously been putting pressure on them, and people who've been, going after the sponsors, and obviously the physical protests at the games as well, at the grounds. Has that had an effect on the Glazers? There's also the fact that the club isn't the money-making machine it was in the past. Sort of profits have stagnated. We've seen that the Glazers are still taking the money because that's what parasites do. They still, feed off the host no matter what's going on. But profits are down. United hasn't been making the kind of money it was a few years ago. And also, when you look at what is going on the pitch, which does affect, forget what Ed Woodward and his nonsense about it, on the pitch, success doesn't matter. It does. When you keep going season after season without trophies, when your rivals, the likes of Liverpool, the likes of City, are winning trophies, are raising the bar, sooner or later, for me, it's a matter of time for City start having success in the Champions League as well. That makes your brand less attractive to sponsors, less attractive to people who spend money. So it is going to affect the bottom line if Manchester United don't win football matches and don't win trophies. And the way things are going in the minute, I know there's obviously been money spent in the summer, but it's going to be very, very difficult for Manchester United to get to the top. I still believe in Eric Ten Hag and what he's doing. But the point I'm getting to anyway is maybe now would be the good time for the Glazers to sell. They could sell, get a big chunk of change from someone like Sir Jim Ratcliffe, and walk off, having bled the club dry, having made loads of money out of us, and also having, turned over a fat profit. Because let's not forget, the Glazers bought Manchester United without any of their own money. They leveraged the club on all these loans with the club's own assets as sort of insurance on those loans, or security on those loans, I should say. So it'd be a massive win for them. Let's get into the comments. Let us know whatever you think. Ross Murphy, good to see him in the chat. And L's getting into the Toney conversation. Don't want Toney. I'll get into that in a minute. Charles Reddit says, hey, Jay, from, I think, is that New Zealand? Sorry, my eyesight is shocking. Toby Ingram says, it's my favourite weatherman, Jay. Yeah, the weather outside, in case you're wondering, it's mild. Colin Pohill, great to see you in the chat. Blade X, great to see you in the chat. Ben says, how legit is this, though? We're going to find out, right, more tonight. I think it's about, is it 7 o'clock tonight? Sorry, 6 o'clock tonight. I think the Q&A interview with Sir Jim Ratcliffe is. So we're going to know more tonight. He's going to get asked this question, and hopefully we can get a bit more of a concrete answer on just what his intentions are. I'm hoping, that this can spark something that he can say, finally speaking himself, not through an intermediary, he can come out and, make a bit of a statement, and this could spark something. Now, you may not be that enamoured of Sir Jim Ratcliffe, because some people may look at it and go, it's just one billionaire to another, and, is this the right answer, and is this going to cause solve our problems? I don't know. There is an argument that anyone is better than the Glazers, and it's certainly from Sir Jim Ratcliffe, when he did that interview with Dan Roan at the BBC, he spoke like someone who understands football, certainly more than Avram or Joel or whoever do. they don't understand football. They never have. And whenever they, we've never really seen them give many interviews about Manchester United. But whenever they have spoke about soccer, you can tell they're absolutely clueless. So Sir Jim Ratcliffe spoke about getting Chelsea to the top of European football, about not just trying to make money out of the club. Now, if he takes that attitude towards Manchester United, then long may it continue. Matthew West says 6 p.m. to 7:15 p.m. tonight. Yeah. Jamie White says, where can we watch I'm Late? I think if you go on the Financial Times website or FT Live, you should be able to. In fact, let me just put a little link in the chat for you there. I'll put a little link in there. You should be able to, I think, click on that. If you see that link I've put there, I think you can click on that. You should be able to watch it later on. I'm going to watch it just to see what he says. We don't know. We don't know what he's going to say. We just know he's going to get asked that question because it's on his itinerary. He's going to get asked about Chelsea. He's going to get asked about Manchester United. So we can hopefully find out a bit more clarity and just on what his intentions are. We've heard these noises from his people. We've heard sort of noises from himself. When he was asked about Manchester United by Dan Rowan, he said Manchester United are not for sale. We've had this sort of statement from one of his spokespeople saying that, Sir Jim Ratcliffe is interested in Manchester United, but they're not for sale. If that changes, then we'll see. Ben Sorvels here says, let's say the Glazers decide to sell Sir Jim next week. It'll still be a couple of years for it all to go through, probably. Fingers crossed. It's quicker, though. Yeah, I don't think this is going to happen overnight. I don't think we can expect Sir Jim Ratcliffe to go, I want to buy United, and then tomorrow he puts in a bid, and then by Friday he's the new owner of Manchester United. I'm just hoping that this could be one of the steps towards the Glazers leaving, because we need them gone from our football club, man. Manchester United will always be around, but I just can't... I shudder to think of another 17 years of this ownership. What that's going to do to this football club? Look at where we were when they took over. I know we had Sir Alex Ferguson as manager, so it's slightly different. But everything from the facilities was top of the range to our success rate was phenomenal. And now you look at it, we haven't won a trophy since 2017. Carrington's not been redeveloped since the turn of the century. The ground, Old Trafford, there's leaks. It's falling apart. If you go there, you're crammed in. It's getting left behind by other stadiums. You look at some of the stadiums our rivals have got, and we're getting left behind on and off the pitch. And you can point the fingers directly to the owners. It's the owners who just not investing. It's not even investing. It's our money. They're not putting our money back into the club. They're taking out dividends, or they're taking out to furnish all these loans that they've got. We're still in the same amount of debt almost that we were in 2005 when they took over. I just don't know how we can... I don't know how long we can survive. And when I say survive, there'll always be a Manchester United, but I don't know how we can survive at the top level of English football or near the top level of English football. With these owners, they just need to get gone. Stuart Thomas says, do you wax your head, Jay? Religiously, I do. Should we move on anyway? Like I said to you, make sure you're checking it out late night tonight if you get a chance. I'm probably going to be watching it. We might do a video on it later on. We'll see what he's got to say, and we'll give a bit of an update, because I'm hoping that there's going to be something that can lead somewhere. Jay, Maurice Varela. Jay, I'm feeling better. It's disruptive when you're not around. Yeah, I was a little bit ill, but I'm better now. So we'll keep you updated later on tonight, and also on the socials and stuff, but I might do a video later on this evening when it's on about 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, where we can sort of keep you posted and let you know what has gone on and what he said, and sort of decide whether we think that could lead to something. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we can get rid of the Glazers, because that's got to be the ultimate goal. Should we move on to other stories as well, because there are other stories? Should we talk about Frenkie de Jong or Jude Bellingham? Yeah, this is a story in the Independent. I think this was yesterday, but I don't think I was on the news yesterday. I don't think we spoke about this yesterday, and we did a bit of a podcast as well. So we'll get into this. It says here that Manchester United are at a crossroads over Frenkie de Jong or Jude Bellingham decision. United must weigh up whether to revive their pursuit of de Jong or join competition with Liverpool, Real Madrid, and Manchester City for a player described as a potential generational talent. Goes on to say United have maintained contact with Barcelona over resurrecting the Frenkie de Jong deal in future, but may have to make a decision over pursuing the Dutch midfielder or Jude Bellingham. The failed pursuit of de Jong ultimately led to the signing of Casemiro. Another plug for that video, Joe's analytical look at Casemiro's performance at Goodison Park. Go and check it out after this video. United was strongly interested in Bellingham when he initially left Birmingham City for Dortmund in 2020, and the 19-year-old has evolved into one of Europe's most sought-after players. United did pull out all the stops to try and get Bellingham when he was at Birmingham. I think he came down to Carrington. I think there was talking in meetings about Ferguson, Brian Robson, Eric Cantona. I mean, you know, you don't do more than that, just wheeling out all the legends and giving them a tour and saying, you know what, you know, we want you to come here and this is how much we value you. I think one of the sort of issues, though, with come to United when he was 16 at the time is he might not have got first-team football straight away. I think the likelihood is he would have probably had to wait a little while. Dortmund pretty much offered him first-team football. He's gone at Dortmund. He's played there for a few years. He's done really well. Had Champions League football, played in the Bundesliga, obviously. They won a cup as well, didn't they? They've won a cup a couple of years ago when Sancho was there, so he's won silverware. So I understand it. I understand why he did that. But United, apparently, according to a lot of reports that I've read over the last sort of few months or so, have maintained that relationship with him and his family. I think it's his dad that looks after him. So there is a sort of a decent relationship. Could that lead to him coming to Manchester United? We'll have to wait and see. The thing with Jude Bellingham is I like Jude Bellingham. I think he's a very good player and I'd like to see him come to Manchester United. And I think these are the sort of signings you used to make back in the day, Manchester United. When Roy Keane was the most spoke about young midfielder in Britain, United went out and broke the British transfer record fee to get him. And he did all right, didn't he? You know, you could go back sort of 11 years earlier, whatever it was, 12 years earlier. Brian Robson, the same, you know, the most spoken about, highly rated young British midfielder. We got him. Broke the transfer record. That might be what we have to do with Jude Bellingham now. I'm not saying he's going to be a Brian Robson or Roy Keane, but he's one of the best young British midfielders or English midfielders on the planet. Highly sought after. He's been linked with all these players that I've teams that I've already mentioned. Sorry, United for me should go out and try and get him. I really think we should. The question is, can we get him? Or would he rather go to someone like Liverpool? Now, Liverpool are in a bit of turmoil themselves, don't forget. They're having a bit of a stinker in terms of this season. There's unrest there with some of the fans and their owners. Quite ironic in it. The fans that were saying, you know, holding Glazers in banners when they came to Old Trafford a few weeks ago are now criticising their own American owners. Oh, the irony. So they've got issues with the owners. Klopp doesn't look a happy bunny. I think it's seventh season syndrome or whatever. They're struggling in the league. I think they're about 10th or whatever. They're not guaranteed, and I don't think I said this a few weeks ago, but they're not guaranteed to get Champions League football next season. You'd expect them to be there or thereabouts, but stranger things have happened. If they don't get Champions League football, and it's a big if, then is Jude Bellingham going to want to go there? I mean, yes, you can argue the same with Manchester United. United probably need Champions League football to try and entice him. It's not a given. You can still get good players. We've got Paul Pogba, we've got Zlatan Ibrahimovic. When we didn't have Champions League football, it can be done. It just makes it like a little bit more harder, especially when you've got other teams as well, sort of, you know, looking at him. I think Real Madrid and teams like that have been looking at Jude Bellingham. He's going to have a lot of suitors in it when he does leave Dortmund, but I would like to think Manchester United would be in the mix for him. Get involved in the chat. Let us know what you think about Jude Bellingham or Frankie de Jong, because that's not dead in the water. I know obviously it didn't happen in the summer. We spent all summer trying to get him. It was a bit strange, actually, the fact that we spent so long trying to get Frankie de Jong and didn't end up getting him. I don't know quite what the thinking was there. You'd have thought there'd been some conversation to sort of, you know, insinuate that he was ready to come to Manchester United. Yeah, months later, it didn't happen. We got Casemiro, though, so it's not a complete, you know, disaster this summer. Jaff Master Flash 7. I'd go for Bellingham. We've tried with de Jong. He didn't want to come, plus he's younger. Although Sancho ain't putting in Dortmund numbers, both are risks. Ben Sorville says, completely agree, but Bellingham will go to City in the summer, probably. Amir Asen Basic says, Rice was all the hype, not on the radar anymore. Miles says, to be fair, Rice is locked into the England squad and he's just safely strolling about games this season. Rice had a bit of a funny season this season, hasn't he? West Ham have been a bit up and down. I've seen him a couple of times. He looks all right. I don't know. I mean, listen, I'm not going to complain if Declan Rice comes to Manchester United, but if I had a choice, I'd probably prefer Jude Bellingham, though you know, knowing Manchester United, we'll probably end up getting neither. Should we talk about Ivan Toney? There was a story doing the rounds yesterday about Ivan Toney. I think it was this morning as well. Basically, that Brentford are ready to give him a new deal. I think his deal currently runs out in 2025, the 26-year-old. This is in the Mirror. I think the Evening News have got it as well. It says Brentford are ready to hand striker Ivan Toney a new deal to reflect his status at the club. His contract runs out in 2025, but they're ready to offer him a new deal. And there is apparently going to be a sort of a release clause in this. Now, he's been linked with United, hasn't it? And I think that the thing with the links with United, it feels a little bit fan-led rather than, you know, sort of reporter or club or agent-led. I don't see many stories where you go, okay, that looks like it's going to happen. It looks like we're getting ready to make a bid for him, or there's something in that, or, you know, we're monitoring him or scouting him properly. It just feels like he's a young striker, or a striker, you know, a 26-year-old striker who scored, I think, is it 9 goals this season? 6 goals, sorry, this season in the Premier League. Had a decent season last season. United obviously could do with a striker. We've got a 37-year-old Cristiano Ronaldo and an injury-prone Anthony Martial, so we're a bit short up front. Toney kind of makes sense. Done well in the Premier League. You'd think he'd be obtainable without having to go into silly money. I don't see Ivan Toney costing you 100 million quid. You know, I'm guessing his release clause is probably going to be around the 60, 70 million quid mark. So it's doable. And a lot of fans I've spoken to, a lot of fans who've been involved in the comments and stuff on the channel seem to quite like Ivan Toney. I like Ivan Toney. I think if he came to Manchester United, it'd be a good signing. You'd probably have him as a bit of a backup to Anthony Martial, depending on Anthony Martial's fitness. Quizzy221 says Toney would be a brilliant signing. So we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, it kind of makes sense. Oh, sorry. Ranabe Mitra says, hi, Jay, where does Bellingham play for us? He doesn't have the profile of Casemiro or Eriksen. You look as well, though, Bellingham's, you know, he's got another 12 years at the top at least, if not 13, 14. Casemiro and Eriksen, they're both there. So, you know, yes, they're great players, and they're obviously doing, going to do bits for United this season, next season, probably season after as well. But longer term, you need a younger player, and Jude Bellingham certainly would fit the bill. James Wood says, Ratcliffe to buy United by Christmas and give United fans the perfect Christmas present. It would be the perfect Christmas present. I'd love to see Sir Jim Ratcliffe, or anyone actually, well, almost anyone within reason, take over from the Glazers, because I can't stand him. And the sooner they're gone from our football club, the better. Listen, we're going to wrap up there. Make sure you're checking out that Casemiro video that I spoke about earlier, Joe, having an analytical look at the Brazilian's performance at Goodison Park. Don't forget as well to give us a like and a share and subscribe to the channel. We want to get to 700,000 subscribers by Christmas. And with your support, yes, we can do it. This has been The Paper Talk, live from the studio. Thanks for watching.